kicking off the first half of tonight's show, we're going to discuss the health of boxing in America. And we're going to examine what's possible, what's maybe on the road ahead. And unfortunately, it doesn't look all that promising right now, Gogue. Numbers are down for all popular pastimes in America. Basketball, baseball, and boxing. The numbers are way down on every network. Gogue, you would think during this pandemic, when everyone is at home, you would think that they would actually start watching, like more people would be watching these events, and it's actually the opposite. Less people are watching. Last night's, just from the feedback, and the official numbers aren't out yet, they won't be out until tomorrow, but the feedback that I'm getting, most people didn't tune in last night to see Jamal James fight Tomas Delorme on Fox. And this wasn't Fox Sports 1. This was the mothership, the primary channel, Fox, right? What are your thoughts on this, Gogue? Because, yeah, this is quite disturbing if you're an avid, diehard boxing fan or in the business.
Well, Joe, the sport's dying. I mean, come on, look at the ratings. This is Fox, not Fox Sports 1. This is Fox National, where they used to get like 1.6 million, over 2.3 million now. Yeah, they're back down to 800,000. Was it 800,000 or something like that, Joe? 500,000?
Yeah, somewhere. Well, that's the initial figure. We'll see tomorrow, but the actual final number. But yeah, when PBC first debuted on NBC and on Fox and on CBS, numbers were hovering around 3 million. I remember Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson. I think that broadcast was 3.2 million, 3.3 million. So, yeah, this is quite disturbing. And obviously Jamal James versus Tomas Delorme, no offense to those brave souls that sacrifice their health for our entertainment. No offense to them, but, yeah, that's a far cry from Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson, brother. So do you think that's part of the problem? Because, I mean, basketball, you don't see LeBron James actually refusing to play during this pandemic because it's not in front of an audience, right? But unfortunately, because they would be taking a substantial pay cut, most of the stars refuse to fight during this time. Is that part of it, Gogue?
Joe, there's a lot of problems, boxing has right now that's turning fans off. Number one, everything starts at the top, Joe. The leadership, okay? Not only from the promoters, but the the sanctioning bodies that are totally ruining the sport. Number one, there's too many sanctioning bodies, okay? And there's just too many titles out there, like the WBA. They got, 5, 6 champions in one division? That's ridiculous. They have just totally diluted the value of what world champion means, okay? And, things like that, Joe. It starts at the top, then you could go all the way down, besides, the sanctioning body screwing everything up. The promoters don't want to work with each other, to put on the best fights. So they just want to work with fighters that they got signed in their stable, which is limited. You know what I mean? Everything, Joe. The matchups they put on TV nowadays are a joke. The main event, yesterday, it's a good fight, but it was a good fight for Fox Sports 1, not Fox National. Okay, not the big dog, but, the local regional, a minor league Fox. Then the undercard, it was atrocious. The guys up out on the undercard. They had that. No. They were trying to showcase that heavyweight, that 34-year-old heavyweight. No disrespect to him because he served their country. He's a soldier, but come on, he's 34 years old, limited amateur background. What kind of upside does that guy have? And I see one round of him, I go, oh God, that was enough. Look, that guy. When I had my heavyweight back in the day, Lawrence Claybay, 1996 Olympian,
Boy, he had skills. He fought like a lightweight.
Clay used to knock guys like that out in 6-rounders, okay? And no problem, easy work. Clay could not, in fact, if Clay was fighting today, he would knock that guy out with a Sunday morning hangover, okay? That's how, And they're trying to showcase him, and Joe, like I said, there was only one good real matchup I saw yesterday. That Delorme and James, and the other fight sucked, and I didn't even bother watching it. I seen a few rounds later. I just turned me off, Joe, and I waited for the Delorme fight, which was a lot better and everything. It was it was a good little scrap, but it wasn't the type of scrap that deserved main event status. It's just the quality, Joe. It's being sugared down from the past. When I used to watch matchups, on national TV, they used to have the best fighting the best. You know what I mean, Joe? Duran versus Davey Moore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Great fights like that. And
let me give you
Joe,
Gogue, let me just interrupt you there because I want to just expound on your point. Just to give you an idea of where we were at in 1979, right? Listen to this card on ABC. You ready for this? Larry Holmes was in the main event, taking on Ernie Shavers. In the co-main event, Sugar Ray Leonard taking on Andy Price.
Yeah.
Listen to this. It also featured Wilfredo Gomez fighting Carlos Mendoza. And it also featured Roberto Duran versus Zeferino Gonzalez. That was on ABC, free.
Yeah.
That was an evening of boxing on ABC. Now compare that to what we just saw last night.
Oh, jeez.
Now now keep in mind, guys, inflation. You would have to multiply these purses times, about 3.5, right? Because inflation since 1979 has gone up like 3.5%, right? It's 3.5 times increase, right? So
yeah.
Jamal James got paid $200,000 last night, right? He made $200,000. Ernie Shavers grossed $300,000 for taking on Larry Holmes.
Jeez.
Now that's under $1 million, $900,000 just about, maybe about $250,000. That's the equivalent to about $1 million today. Now Teofimo Lopez, right? He's a title holder, right? For instance, he's a title holder, but he just turned down $1.25 million or $1.2 million to compete and headline for the very first time in a unification bout opposite Vasyl Lomachenko. He turned that down, Gogue.
Yeah.
Claiming that it's not enough money.
Yeah.
And he's saying that, look, 27% of the purse is just not enough. Well, okay, this is what's wrong. This is part of what's wrong, and I'd like to expound on this in a second. Here's another example. Do you know how much Miguel Cotto actually made when he fought Floyd Mayweather Jr.? Now, once again, Miguel Cotto was a two-division world champion and a legitimate headliner when he faced Floyd Mayweather Jr., right? How much of the purse did he actually get? Huh?
And a pay-per-view star.
That's right. So how much of the purse did he actually get?
I don't know. What did he get?
He got $10 million. Floyd made $41 million, right? So he got less than 25%, and you didn't hear Miguel Cotto complaining.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong with the sport today. These fighters. How many guys did you hear of when Canelo was trying to make that fight for Cinco de Mayo before the pandemic? How many guys turned down $4, $5, $6, $7 million to face Canelo Alvarez?
The list goes on.
Yep. And because of the, lagging numbers, right, and the disappointing ratings, it looks like Mike Tyson and Roy Jones exhibition, it was just announced today that they're going to be moving this event, pushing it back to November 28th, right? Thanksgiving weekend. Are you a little surprised, Gogue?
Joe, number one, it was, put together pretty damn fast. With the kind of money they're offering, they're probably still trying to, get the financing to get it done. You know what I mean, Joe?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Gogue, I think, and I've been, once again, man, I'm a journalist, so I always try to look at it from a numbers perspective and to generate my theories best I can just by looking at numbers and looking at trends. I think while sports was away, right, while there were no live events, there were no boxing events, when we were all shut down, I don't think it's any coincidence that Netflix added 13.5 million subscribers internationally over the past 3-4 months. Do you know what the subscriber numbers are now? 182 million subscribers worldwide.
Wow.
Yep, and guess what? They are not interested in paying for any boxing events.
I guess not, Joe. They haven't shown nothing.
No, they're not interested. And once again, this is a terribly negative trend, and it's trending. This is a consistent trend. I hate to say this, Gogue, but our beloved boxing has turned into a fringe pastime in this country.
It's a joke. It's a fraud. You know what I mean, Joe?
It's terrible. These fighters, the inflated purses, and what did Don always talk about? When we used to interview him on this show, God rest his soul, when we used to interview the Don on this program, he always talked about, and this is when PBC was starting, right? We had him on the show every single Wednesday. And he would say, you know what, this is a terrible practice to inflate fighters' purses to try and attract them to come over and fight for you, for your promotion. Because they're going to expect that every single time. Mm-hmm. And it's going to become increasingly difficult to make the big matchups take place. In their minds, what's the incentive? Why should we when we're already making millions for soft touches? Gogue, and now you look at this, none of the big stars want to compete right now without either the benefit of pay-per-view or the live gate. None of the stars are competing right now, and you don't have this problem in any other sport currently. Your thoughts on this, Gogue?
Joe, it goes way beyond just one thing. Now, I noticed boxing, okay, in the 90s. It started kind of slowly eroding at the club level show. You know why, Joe? All the Indian casinos started opening up. So what happened is the promoters got lazy, start taking their shows to the Indian casinos because they were they got paid a site fee to bring their fighters in. And guess what? That took a lot of pressure off them to develop their fighters locally, so they didn't have to sell tickets. Yeah. I mean, before the Indian casinos opened up, Joe, I remember promoters used to, like Don in Sacramento, boy, he used to, he would have to go promote over there because that was a good loyal fan base he had over there with fighters. He could, move tickets and other places in the Bay Area. And it was like that way. It was like that everywhere, Joe. You had a bunch of, grassroots promoters in different regions building their fighters up. And to me, Joe, when that started slowly eroding, hey, it pretty much killed boxing at the local level. And, Joe, in order for boxing to be mainstream, like, football, where it's at the college level, at the high school level, or baseball or basketball, you got to have the grassroots level. That's the foundation of boxing. And you look anywhere in the United States, there ain't a lot of club show promoters that are doing fights, especially during the pandemic. You know what I mean, Joe? So that right there has a lot to do with the foundation of boxing, slowly deteriorating. Then, when you get to everything else, like I said, I talked about the sanctioning bodies and the promoters not working with each other. Nobody wants to fight each other, and all the list goes on. I'm sick of it, Joe. It turned me off.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, because at the club level, at the grassroots level, that's where diehard boxing fans are created. Mm-hmm. Once you go see your first live show, you're hooked. It's almost like the first time you go to a great rock concert. you're a lifer. I don't know one person who's been to a live boxing event at the club level, met the fighters, took pictures with them afterwards, been right there ringside. I don't know one who wasn't transformed to be a diehard fan. That's where diehard fans are made. You're absolutely right about that. And also, Gogue, when I noticed this, just a slow demise, and Don pointed this out to me as well. He said, you know what, we screwed ourselves. One, we stopped beating our feet and promoting things, and we took the events. You're absolutely right. You know, took the events from venues where people could go see it, and we started putting them in these sterile casinos that were out of the way. And also, when we took them off network TV and started selling them to the highest bidder on either HBO Showtime or pay-per-view. He said, and when you take it off mainstream television, you're absolutely right, Gogue. Yeah,
you don't build a fan base.
Out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. So, yeah, Gogue, and one of the reasons why I brought up Netflix is I think, and this is just my theory, because when you look at the subscriber increase, right, I think people have gotten used to watching Netflix and have gotten used to not seeing sports. People have grown accustomed to that because usually in America, there's at least one major sport going on. If it's not basketball, then it's baseball. And if it's not baseball, then it's football and vice versa, right? And for the last 4 months, we haven't seen any major sports since March, right? And you look at Netflix. Ching-gow, man. 13.5 million additional subscribers they've added internationally. Yeah. They are up to now 182 million subscribers. Do you know how much they're making every single month, Gogue?
A lot more than boxing.
Well, yeah. So wouldn't you think, like if Netflix really wanted to, like if they saw great numbers, $5 million for a big fight on regular subscriber Netflix would be no problem for them. Because that's how much this Charlo Derevchenko fight is costing Showtime.
Yeah.
They would be a huge player, and it would put boxing back on the map. But once again, because the numbers are so weak, they'd rather invest in original programming like movies, series, comedy specials. They're paying Dave Chappelle a boatload of money per comedy special. Yeah. Why aren't they paying for boxing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
well, that's why. Because numbers... Put it this way, Gogue. Do you remember how many pay-per-view buys Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 2 actually reached in February?
I don't recall.
Now, it was a substantial increase because of the different platform. Rather than being on Showtime pay-per-view, they were on ESPN and Fox pay-per-view, right? In a joint effort with advertisements in the Super Bowl and the college bowl games. It was huge. It was a huge promotion and campaign. Well, both networks actually ended up losing money when they only reached between 750,000 and 800,000.
Oh, okay.
That was the estimation. Okay. That's how much they did. Do you know how much UFC and ESPN made when Conor McGregor made his comeback and fought that nobody and knocked him out in a minute? They got over 1 million subscribers or 1 million purchases. So Conor McGregor coming back to fight a nobody just did a pile driver on probably the biggest heavyweight fight in recent history.
Oh, yeah.
That's not good, Gogue.
Well,
So what do we do? To get our fans back? Because this is downright embarrassing.
Well, Joe, it starts at the top, okay? They got to start working with each other and put the best matchups possible instead of these marginal matchups on, like they had last night. And it's simple, okay? And these fighters right now, like Lopez, Ryan Garcia, they're overpricing themselves. So, and not only them guys, but, pretty much all of them. Like Mike Tyson said, I remember reading a little quote by Mike Tyson. He goes, when I was fighting, I was a fighter. These fighters nowadays are businessmen. And he's right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, hey, Joe, this boxing has just got so many problems. And then the sanctioning bodies, diluting the value of world champion by having all them belts. And, Joe, just a list of the problems go on and on. But the main thing, Joe, is, the lack of quality matchups you see on free TV. You got a good fight like Derevchenko, and they want to put it on pay-per-view. Come on, man. That should be on Fox National, okay? And
yep.
his twin brother should be the co-main event, okay? Now that's a good solid matchup that will get fans excited. But they want to put it on pay-per-view, huh? And it ain't gonna do good, Joe.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I'm reading some of the comments that our very dear friend Big Luke is posting on Facebook. Brother, thank you so much for tuning in. Can't really say them on the air, but we know you will, man. In due time, Gogue. I tell you what, though, it's a serious problem. And just to support your point, last night's program, the headliner, fight between Jamal James versus Tomas Delorme, now listen to this, was held, and the winner is the new WBA regular welterweight champion.
Oh, Jesus.
Was that a championship fight, Gogue? I mean, it was a good it was a good strap, but neither one of those guys are championship level right now in the welterweight division. I mean, that's insulting, Gogue.
See what I mean, Joe?
And now listen to this. Next month, Yordenis Ugas from Cuba is going to be fighting for the interim WBA welterweight championship next month. And the holder of the super WBA welterweight title is Manny Pacquiao. Thanks for playing.
Three world champions in one division. Oh, God. In one sanctioning body.
And none of them are fighting against each other.
What a effing joke. And you know what? Who to blame? You blame Al, okay? He's allowing this shit, okay? He's responsible. Him and Mendoza got a real comfort, a real comfortable relationship and everything. Mendoza used to have a strong relationship with Robert Diaz, the Golden Boy, but Mendoza follows the money. He knows there's more money right now with PBC than Golden Boy, so he's done a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of favors for Al. You know what I mean? To to get these bullshit belts, push for world title fights on TV. Joe, you can't. The fans are so confused out there, man. That's why there's no credibility in the sport. They lost all credibility to the fans out there. In return, the fans don't care. They don't want to tune in. And that another match, that fight's on Fox. That's another fight that should be on the Fox One Sports minor league network, not Fox Main. Come on.
Indeed. Here's another doozy by the WBA, right? Here's another doozy. They're currently in the process of finalizing Andy Ruiz Jr. versus Manuel Char on December 3rd. And it's going to be held for the WBA regular heavyweight championship. Manuel Char, who hasn't competed professionally since 2017, right?
Oh, I'm telling you, the WBC has become the biggest prostitute in organization in boxing. They'll do anything to prostitute their belt just to make money. Okay?
No, I know.
Gilberto,
the
totally
franchise
destroyed.
champion.
Look, Gilberto has totally destroyed that value of what the WBA used to mean. It used to mean something, okay? The WBA, WBC, then the IBF came around in '83, but they were considered, when you won those belts, you were considered a world champion, okay? Now Gilberto, because of the WBA Junior.
Yep.
He's totally ruined the credibility of that belt. Okay, now to me it's garbage. It's worthless.
Yeah. Well, guys, and I talked about this on my Friday show, right? You're going to find out how worthless these trinkets are to guys who have reached the stature and have reached the money-making, earning potential of a Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. If Tyson Fury wins this rubber match, right, or trilogy match, I should say more accurately, in December, WBC has tried to make the demand, hey, you're going to have to defend this title against Dillian Whyte. What do you think the Gypsy King is going to do? He's going to laugh in their face and say, hey, well, you can then here it is. I'm going to let it go because I don't need this. I am the man in the heavyweight division. I'm the ring lineal heavyweight champion. I don't need the WBC. And he's going to put it in the trash because there's no way he is going to let them dictate terms and make him fight Dillian Whyte and postpone once again the biggest money fight in boxing, which would be him versus Anthony Joshua. So what are they going to do? They're not going to want him to dump the belt because they know his 3% is worth a lot more than Dillian Whyte's. So what are they going to do? They're going to change their mind and give him the franchise tag. Exactly same thing that they did with Canelo as well as Vasyl Lomachenko. That's what's going to happen. So you're absolutely right. They're nothing but a bunch of prostitutes that want to piggyback on these fighters' purses, taxing them 3% just for carrying around a stupid trinket. That's what it's come to. Do you remember, Gogue?
Belt, Joe.
Do you remember, Gogue, when we were kids, that being the heavyweight champion was the biggest prize in sports?
Yep. That was the granddaddy when you were a heavyweight champ of the world.
That was like winning the World Series and the Super Bowl combined.
Yep. And it meant something, Joe, back then. It meant something. Okay, now it's a joke. And blame them sanctioning bodies, but you blame the promoters for letting them do it. Okay, Al, PVC, you blame him. Okay, for letting this happen and everything.
Yeah, it's a travesty.